Welcome to the Lady Landlords podcast, where we empower women to gain financial independence through real estate investing. I'm your host, Becky Nova, founder of Lady Landlords. If you're ready to buy, manage, and grow your real estate portfolio, then let's get started.
If you had the opportunity to spend the day with expert investors and investing team members to learn everything that you need about your next move for your real estate investing journey, would you take it? That's what we're going to jump into with today's episode as we do a recap of the Lady Landlords Dominican Republic Property Tour. Because we had a group of lady landlords that chose to do exactly that. They took that opportunity, and we had women from all across the United States that flew down to the Dominican Republic to spend the day with me on our Dominican property tour. So if you were not familiar with what we did in the Dominican Republic property tour, here's how that worked. What I did was I got a bus and we put together a route thanks to our host, Blue Caribbean Properties, and put together a route of different properties that we can go see, different rentals that were going to work as investors from the United States. We saw new construction. We saw properties that were already put together. We saw properties that were beachfront. We saw properties that were off beach. All those different properties that we were able to walk into, go, touch, feel, smell, all of those different things. Then we were able to have our realtors on site to be able to ask questions with. I was there as a person that also does invest down here in the Dominican Republic and has long-term rentals, mid-term rentals, short-term rentals all down here. And then we also had vetted attorneys, lenders. We had a conversation about property management, about marketing, all of those different things we were able to do within the same day to really go through what it would be like to build a portfolio. And now, even though we did this in the Dominican Republic and we did it in Punta Cana, the beauty of it was that we still talked about how to be able to manage properties, even if you were investing long distance. So even if you are over there in California listening to this saying, well, I want to invest in Philly or Ohio, well, you can actually do that. And we talked about how to be able to do that from really anywhere in the world. Now, this was actually a trip that I'd wanted to do kind of for years. This was an idea that I had of really being able to immerse ourselves together, hands-on, and go through what this process looks like, really from soup to nuts. This is something I really wanted to do for a very long time. I was going to do it back in 2025, but between the loss of my mother-in-law and then finding out that I was pregnant with my daughter Eve, just didn't happen. So this was really like years in the making. And I was very, very excited to have this come to fruition and hear women's response to what we did that day. So that happened this past weekend. That was this past Saturday that we were able to make this work. We had women from California. We had women from Philly, we had women from DC, we had women from Boston that all flew down to do this. Some had actually been to the Dominican Republic before. Most had not. Most had never been here before, and definitely not to Punta Cana, which was really great. So what was amazing was when everybody kind of got there in the morning and we met at our office to kind of do some introductions and get to know each other and really make sure that we had clarity on what we were looking to do that day. What I loved was automatically people bonding together. In the beginning, even just getting coffee, you start hearing women asking each other, do you already own property? Where do you own? How do you make that work? There were already connections happening. Before this, we actually set up a little group chat. So we already knew where everybody was from. We were already sharing socials. We were already sharing kind of what's going on in our portfolio. And it was really cool to then get to meet people in person. There were people there that I've worked with for years, but everything can be done virtually. It was so nice to get people together and be able to hug people that I've known in our Lady Landlords Facebook community for years, but really get to see them in 3D form and have those conversations. Could not think of anything better. So we started there. We then were able to hop on that bus. We had a full route, and that was something that I really asked the realtor that I know down here. I just did an episode here on our podcast with Jessie from Blue Caribbean Properties. So if you've not heard that and want to learn more about how real estate and identifying properties in foreign countries work, feel free to go back and listen to that episode. But I'd asked her to really give us a good sprinkling of different types of properties. There were so many different benefits and so many different ways that taxes work, that LLCs work, especially when buying abroad, that I wanted to show people the variety of that. It's also important from a price point perspective. I truly believe that there's a place in real estate investing for everyone, regardless of how much money you're starting with or what capital looks like, or if you have a day job or you don't have a day job. There is a way to make this work for everybody. And I wanted to make sure that we highlighted that on the tour with that there's an entry point for everybody and that there's still cash flow possibilities in cheaper places, more expensive places, and how to make things cash flow and how to really make a successful business within that. And also how to change your lifestyle. Of the women that came, every single one of them said that if they bought in the Dominican Republic, that they would want to be able to have the opportunity to use the property for some period of time. Okay. I live down here for about 4 or 5 months out of the year. Some people said I might just want to come down for a week or two. Other people said maybe this is where I'm going to retire later in life. And then that way I have a property that's paid off that I can do that. Everybody was in a different place. And I love that because really putting together that strategy is incredibly important. And that's what tells us how to be able to move forward. So it was great to be able to capture that. So we hopped on a bus. It was great. It was actually pouring rain that morning. If you followed along, I had a lot of the videos and I'm going to share more over on my Instagram at the Becky Nova. So if you'd like to learn more from the behind the scenes, feel free to head over there. But it was pouring rain in the morning. We're trying to hop on and off this bus. So that was fun. You know, you come down to the Caribbean, you're expecting, gorgeous sun. I thought it was going to be a hot day. I thought we were going to have a lot of problems with just the sun and how hot it would be walking around. But really our big problem when we started with was the rain, oddly enough. But it didn't matter. Honestly, the ladies were kind of happy. They were like, cool, I'm not losing a beach day. Let's go. Let's hop on this tour. So we were able to go see different properties. And it was really great just to see, even from the very first stop, starting to talk about what the pros and cons were for that. There were really 3 points that I saw come together throughout this day then as we progressed once we started it. Those 3 steps that I'm going to kind of take you through with really what this trip meant was the women, and the feedback that I got from the trip was they felt that there was more confidence, they had clarity, and they had community. So let's start with confidence. From the very beginning, as we're walking through these properties, this is hands-on training. This is literally walking through with a realtor that knows that property like the back of her hand, and walking through with an expert investor that owns property down the street that has been doing this for years and also owns back in the United States. We were able to go through everybody's questions. It was really great with the group of women that we had to be able to get that one-on-one time with everybody, to be able to talk through people's questions, to be able to say, well, hey, how this actually fits within your portfolio. If you've been in Lady Landlords for more than a week, you know that everything that I talk about always comes down to individuality. What is going to specifically work for you? What works for your specific portfolio? And that all comes down to strategy. We need to start there. What works for me is not going to work for you because we're different people and have different set of factors. We need to really be able to look at that and say, how does this fit in yours? So it wasn't just, okay, well, it costs this much and here's how much your expenses are. But it was really, how are we paying for it? And how we're paying for it is going to be different from Shannon than it was for Millie, than it was for Cynthia. We need to be able to really factor those things in and then also talk about that end goal. If Cynthia wanted to come down for a week or two, but Shannon wanted to use it as a retirement property, our deal analysis was going to be different. We needed to talk about those things in that space, and we were able to have that. Getting that confidence was the number one answer that I received from women when I talked about what they felt that they got from the day that we spent together. The confidence to be able to move forward. That I thought was just beautiful. It's not always the knowledge. It's not listening to another podcast. It's not reading another book. It's not going to another conference. But it's really being able to say, hey, I can actually do this. And now I have the information I need to make good decisions. So now we're going throughout the day. And since we're able to talk about those situations, since we're able to really just pull out a piece of paper in some of these places, there was one spot that I thought we were actually going to fall a little behind on my itinerary here, because we'd pulled out paper and we're sat down at one of the kitchen tables in one of the units and started mapping out numbers and doing deal analysis right by hand, right there on the countertop. And I think that was really important because that allowed us to say yes or no in those moments and make those decisions. Within that, now having that information that gave us the confidence, we had that second point, which was clarity. We were able to take action. We were able to move that needle forward. We were able to say, what is our next step? What do we need? We got to go to multiple different locations. Like I said earlier in this episode, we got to see some new construction. We saw properties that were already built. We got to see things that we had to put on hard hats and vests. Go check that out. Those were really fun pictures to be able to take too. But We got to go see properties that were still in this just dirt, just really getting the basics and understanding how developers work, how the permitting process, how the building process, all of those different pieces we got to learn and really ask those questions right on with the developers, with the builders, with the realtors, with me as an investor that owns down here, how these situations work. So then that way in our mini coaching sessions at the end that were all done one-on-one, we were able to leave with an action plan. Who cares if you have information if you do not use it? Honestly, you're wasting your time, okay? The women that chose to come down here, the women that decided to come on this trip, were saying, I am ready. Maybe I don't have the answers. Maybe I don't know what's next. But what I do know is I'm ready to figure that out, and I'm willing to get some help and support to make sure that I have a clear next step. So what I thought was great was when we put that clarity together with confidence, you get action. Now we're in a spot where we're saying, that's it, I can actually go, I can do those things. So the end of our trip, after we got to go see multiple different locations and drove around on this bus all over Punta Cana for the entire day, we went back and we were met by an attorney that I've actually worked with before, lenders that I've worked with before, talked about property management, talked about marketing, and we were able to have not just the information that we needed, but our group was able to ask questions. They were able to ask now about their specific situation. They were able to ask about that deal that we ran the numbers for on paper back in that kitchen 3 stops ago. What was great about that was that a lot of them left saying, okay, well, now I know not only the property that I want, the deal that I want, where it fits within my portfolio. Maybe I'm not buying it now in 2026, but I know exactly how it's going to fit in my portfolio in 2027. And I know what has to happen this year to make that happen. But now they also have a qualified realtor. Now they also have an attorney that they know is going to return their calls and knows what they're talking about and also speaks English, and that they were able to know how they were actually going to pay for these properties. How are they financing it? How is that going to work, especially in a foreign country? All of those things together, we were able to get clarity on and literally wrote out action plans before the end of the day. And then we all got to do this together. This is where the community piece came in. What was beautiful about this was speaking with each other and being able to share experiences and see what other people pointed out. It was really great to see at the end of the day. I did a little poll as we were kind of riding back on the bus to go to the office to meet the attorney and lenders and property managers. And as we were going back, I asked people as a poll of what properties they liked. And it was interesting to see who liked the ones that were off beach, who liked the ones that were on beach, who liked the ones that had a clubhouse and a community center, who liked the one that had one of the largest pools in the Caribbean that was being built, who liked the new construction, who liked the already built, who liked the one with tax benefits, who liked the one that we're going to make money now. And everybody had a different variety. And it was really sparked the conversation of why people liked what they did, what were the pros and cons to that, and how that worked in that situation. And it was just fun to be able to talk through investing with other women. This was actually the whole reason I started Lady Landlords back in 2020. I felt like I was going to meetups and I was the only woman in the room. It was so nice to be able to sit with other women at lunch and just have a meal and talk about who owned where, how they got into this, how they got started, how they grew their portfolio. There were ideas that we were sitting there being like, that's interesting. I didn't know that things necessarily work that way. There was a couple opportunities that somebody had messaged me here in Punta Cana, 4 different seller financing opportunities, all beachfront. And I loved being able to say, cool, to the women on the trip that love those beachfront properties, here you go. Here's a contact information. Here's somebody that's looking to do seller financing, a place where you can negotiate your down payment, where you can negotiate your terms, your interest rate, your payments, the term of your loan right there. And we were able to share that. We had one woman that came from Philly, Aisha, and then we had another woman, Millie, who maybe lives all the way out in California, but want to know where she invests? She invests in Philly. And they got to sit next to Danielle, who flew down from Boston, but had previously evaluated house hacks to move with her and her daughter down to Philly. It was great to see all of those different women being able to have those connections, that somehow everybody was still pulled together in some way. And every single person, from the newbie that didn't own any real estate to the woman that already had 5, 6 different properties, everybody had somebody to contribute. Everybody had something that they were able to share and give that light bulb moment to another woman on the trip. So I am still reeling from that day. I'll be honest, on Sunday, my goal was to do the least amount of talking as humanly possible because I spent all day on Saturday making sure that we had all those questions answered, went through, and I got to see women, like I said. I was so excited to be able to hug women that I've just known for years. And I'm really looking forward to being able to do more of that in 2026. My goals for 2026 is not only to meet more lady landlords in person, and we have a lot more in-person meetings this year for lady landlords than we've ever had before, and to also to support those that are ready to move the needle forward. For those women that are saying, I'm not letting another year go by where I didn't get a property. I'm not letting another year go by where I didn't figure out how financing works, or I didn't figure out how to scale my portfolio, or I didn't even evaluate something. Who cares if you don't close? But if you didn't make any offers, we're not doing this right. And we need to start thinking, what is in my way? And sometimes it might be yourself, but what is in my way that is stopping me from getting out there and making the offers, growing my portfolio, and getting closer to the goals that I have within real estate? One of the beauties of this business is that everybody is looking for something different here. And those things can also change over time. We had women that were like, I need a retirement plan. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I don't have a 401k. We had women that were saying, I want to stay home with my kids. We had women that were saying, I want to go full-time real estate investing and blow up this portfolio. We had women that said, I just want a couple extra $100 a month. I just want to live in the Dominican Republic for a few months and I want to make some money off of that. Whatever it was, it made sense. And whatever it was important to that specific woman. And I want to be able to support you on that journey moving forward. Coming up, we do have a virtual networking meeting. We still have so many different women across the country, and I would love to pull everybody together. On April 2nd, we are going to be doing a training and some networking all about what type of investor are you and what is the next step that you need to take based off of where you already are in your journey. So come and get clarity to that. I will link the event down in the show notes if you would like to join our virtual networking event on April 2nd. And coming up on April 28th, we're going to be talking more about the ways to creatively finance deals. Okay. So if you are sitting there being like, I want to scale, but I don't know how I'm going to pay for things, we're going to go over more ways to creatively finance deals than you probably even thought existed. Okay. So that's coming up April 28th. I will make sure to put the link to that event also down in the show notes. And lastly, if you are interested in possibly joining another hands-on immersive learning day with lady landlords in person, I might do this again. I might not. Still haven't decided here. But if that is something that does interest you, please make sure to put the word join down in the comments and I will add you to our wait list. This is something that I've already had a ton of people in Lady Landlords reach out in our Facebook community, on my Instagram, saying I would love to be able to do this and they would love to be able to come and meet and walk through properties together with a group of other women. So if that is something that you have any interest in doing, please put the word join down in the comments and I will make sure to add you to our wait list and get you some details if we decide to do another Lady Landlords property tour. Thank you so much for joining me today. Last thing, please do make sure to hit that subscribe button so you do not miss the next episode of the Lady Landlords podcast as we release new episodes every single Tuesday. Thanks so much and see you next week on the Lady Landlords podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Lady Landlords podcast. If you're feeling stuck in your real estate investing journey, visit lady-landlord.com to book a 15-minute orientation call with me and see if you're ready to join our mentorship program. Or you can subscribe to our newsletter and join our Facebook group for exclusive real estate investing tips and offers. Invest with confidence. Become a Lady Landlord today.